Good afternoon, everybody. We are going to do a roll call for Barrio Historico Historic Zone Advisory Board meeting for Monday, May 8th, 2023. Roll call, Grace.
Here.
Mary Lou.
Here.
And Paolo is here. Philip Maher is traveling, so he will not be at the meeting today. Agenda item number 2, approval of the last minutes from April 10th, 2023. Anybody want to make a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Do we have a second?
Yes,
Great.
I'll second it.
Great. So the minutes from April 10th, 2023 have been approved. Number 3, call to audience. Jody, do we have anybody?
We did not receive any call to the audience.
Okay. So that puts us on to our first review of 427 South Elias Avenue, construction of a 1-story addition. And can you please present yourself? Is it Hoge?
Yeah, it's pronounced Hogue.
Oh, Hogue. Hi,
Yeah.
Hogue.
Hi.
So the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Hogue. I'm the designer on this project. This is Patrick Day. He's my brother, full disclosure. Pat has lived on Main Avenue, right across from El Menudo, for about, since the late 80s.
Almost 40 years.
And he's owned this house on Elias, 427 Elias, for what, 15 years or so?
About
10 or 15
20
years?
yeah.
Yeah. And what he'd like to do is he's used the house on Elias as a rental. And what he'd like to do is make it his primary residence. So the proposed addition is to make it more livable for him to use as a primary residence. So that's a little background. What I like to do is share my screen and show you guys this PDF that we have. So I'm going to just try and do that. Okay. Is that working? Can you?
It is.
It is.
Great. Let me just close this.
Cancel.
Okay. I'm going to skip over this response page. This is a page I submitted in which I respond to each of the UDC criteria and just give you more of an overview first. And then we can cycle back to that if you have any questions or about details. So here's the neighborhood map. Are you all familiar with El Hoyo?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So he's right on Elias here in the middle of the block, between Creo and Simpson. As you can see, it's a really small footprint. It's a very small house. It's about 640 square feet. If you look around, it's probably one of the smallest in the zone, in the neighborhood. Here's the historic inventory form. It's a contributing property. It was built in 1928. It's unfired adobe, stuccoed. It has a couple of courses of fired adobe block on top of the parapet to cap it off. This structure is a bathroom that was added in the 1950s. It's actually frame and stucco. The house has wood sash windows. They're actually double hung. This photo makes it look like there's mountains, but there's not. That's a like security screen. Wood doors. Stucco finish. I think it's got a flat roof, obviously, and it drains to the east. Just to make a note of this big mesquite tree, because I'm going to talk about that in a second, behind the house. Here's the site plan. So here's the existing house at 640 square feet. That's that bathroom and closet addition. Actually, there's a closet that's tacked on there as well. That's going to get demoed. As you can see, it's a really small lot. It's about 3,000 square feet, just over. There's an existing corrugated steel shed here in the backyard, 10 by 10, that he's been using as a laundry shed. The plan is to demo that. There's also an old porch cover on the back of the house that was added later in the 90s. Plan is to demo that as well. So Pat's concept was to add, one large feeling room, to this otherwise really small house. I'll show you the floor plan in a minute. It's basically broken up into 3 rooms, kind of shotgun style, each of them really small. So his idea is to, really move here and he's thinking about sort of aging in place in this house and moving into something more manageable. So to make it really livable, he'd love to have one room that's large, that has more light and higher ceilings. But his concept for getting it onto this really small lot is to put it here on the north and preserve this area to the southeast under that mesquite tree
Southern Court.
as a really nice southern courtyard that he can plant up, use the water off these 2 roofs and make that really green and private. Okay. The reason I'm talking about this is because it's really crucial for us to shift this far enough north, to make it possible. So we're asking for a setback modification on the north side from, the typical 6 feet down to 3 feet. And also the height modification, obviously, because those go hand in hand. And we feel like there's a lot of precedent for this kind of setback in the neighborhood, and I'll show you a map in a second. And also for this kind of height. When we look at I'll show you some slides of measurements of comparative heights, and it sits pretty comfortably within a range of heights of contributing structures in the zone. He'd also like to create this transitional front porch, which is a bit of a departure from this typology, but would be really nice in terms of creating shade on the western face and of kind of tying these 2 volumes together, the new and the existing. Okay. Oop, did we lose something?
Oh,
So here's a floor plan, a little more detail. Okay, you can see a large open kind of family room on the north, front porch on the west. This is facing the street. You can see the existing house, has thick walls, small windows, and small rooms.
no storage.
Storage, yeah. Okay. Here's current photographs showing from the west. This is, the view from the street. Of course, the addition would sit here on the north side. And I should say, he's got a good relationship with his neighbor on the north, Pedro, and he's fine with it. He's talked about his plans with him, and he has no problem with it. In fact, you'll see he appears in some photos later on, helping to take measurements in the neighborhood. Okay, here's that bathroom addition. The plan is for that basically to get swallowed up inside the new addition. This is on the back of the house. Here's that porch cover I talked about. The plan is to get rid of that, to demo that. The new addition would sit here on the north. This small closet would get demoed. It's really kind of tacked on to create more room for this kind of dining area. Okay. So here's the west elevation from the street. He's planning on doing a wood post and beam porch on the front with Spanish clay tile. There is some precedence for this in the neighborhood down the block. 3 small windows in the front. What we tried to do was repeat the kind of motif of large rectangular mass with small window door penetrations in the west face. In terms of details, the plan is to make this is going to be a frame structure, frame stucco, and the plan is to really try and match the original stucco texture, and of course match the color and the trim color. It has this nice blue kind of periwinkle trim color. Wood sash windows all around, so that they're paintable. In terms of the stucco detail, we're required to use weep screed at the base for a frame structure like that, but that's the only metal stop that would be involved. All the windows would be inset to create a reveal, and the stucco rolled into the window frames. Okay. Here's the full set of elevations. Here's the south from the south side. Here's the existing house in front. This south wall is really where almost all of the fenestration is going. Almost all the windows are going in the south face. really opening strongly to that courtyard on the southeast. On the east side, we have no windows at all. Here's that courtyard space to the left. On the north side, no windows at all. He really didn't want to have windows that were looking down into Pedro's yard and kind of looming over him.
Also,
Yeah.
how the height changes from the ceiling. It's only very high. One.
Right. So we're stepping, the ceilings are 10 foot in this section and 12 foot here. And the big reason for that is for us to be able to get these clear story windows in above to get light into that main room. Okay, here's that west face again. Okay. Do you have any questions on the elevations as I go along? Anybody?
I don't know, maybe if you finish your presentation and then we can comment at the end.
Okay, sure. Okay, so here's a map. I'll zoom in a bit. Looking at setback comparisons, of course, here's the site marked in red. On the south side of the existing structure, it's only a 3-foot setback now. The house directly to the south also only has a 3-foot setback. As you can see, a lot of the houses have almost zero or very little setback from at least one of the property lines on there for their lots. In terms of height, here's the existing house. There's Pedro with his measuring pole. It comes in at 10.6. It varies, depending on grade. The neighbor directly to the south at 431 is at 13 feet. The highest contributing structure we found was 18 feet down the street. 14.6 is 2 doors up, another 18. And there's another addition that's, how high is the addition on?
Yeah,
So,
it's 18 at
18 or
least.
19,
At least.
yeah. It's not a contributing structure, but there is precedence for higher structures in the neighborhood. Here's a photo survey of the street. Of course, here's the house at 427. Going north, that's a contributing structure. I think the 2-story is not. Here to the south, this is a contributing structure right next door, 431. This is just a 3-foot setback and 13-foot high walls. There's a house down the street that's contributing, and it also has a clay tile porch roof on the front. This is the opposite side of the street. Really, in El Hoyo, it seems like the pattern has a lot of variety. It's not super uniform. Some houses have front porches, some have entry gates, some have fences. So we feel like adding a front porch at a slightly higher elevation on the front really kind of fits in with that overall rhythm in the neighborhood. Okay. So I'll double back to the criteria. I think a lot of this I already addressed, but I'll go ahead. Let's go ahead and take your questions, and we can go from there, I guess.
Mary Lou, Grace, do you guys have anything to start with? Maybe-
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess the first thing, I don't have any concerns about the setback necessarily. It's more the height and the relationship to the existing structure that are giving me pause. So can you go back to the images with the different heights measured? I just
Sure.
want to check with Jody because a lot of these are gable roof types, and what we're proposing is a parapet. So when we look at that height, is it measured the same, Jody, to the top of the ridge, or we're talking about halfway down the wall?
Well, if it's a
Sorry. I have to actually look that up, Grace. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Gotcha. Yeah, me neither. So let's find out. And then that was one thing when I looked at it initially that
There are a couple others that are parapet styles that are fairly high. This at 408, it's a parapet roof, right? It's at 18. 412 is also at 18.
Are those contributing structures?
I believe they are. Yeah, let me just
Yeah,
double check.
I think so too.
Yeah. When I asked Pat to measure them, I asked him to measure only contributing. So,
Yeah, it's all that's on the street.
yeah.
Oh, everyone there is.
Where's 408? Oh, there's 408 on the corner. Yeah. 412 here. Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit of a jump up. But as I said, we really love to be able to get those clear story windows in above
Yeah.
the existing.
So I'm kind of on the same page with Grace. It seems like the new addition is it's just dominating that historic structure that you have in the front. So I think if we can get clarification on that through Jody with what an appropriate height is, comparing it to gable roofs. Another one of my concerns is the fenestration. It seems like a lot of this fenestration vernacular is not typical of the Barrio, like these transoms over double hung windows. The clear story too. I'm wondering if maybe you can solve some of those lighting issues with skylights up on the roof. You're not going to see those from the street.
Yeah, I mean, you can, as you know, skylights are much harder to control in terms of summer versus winter. The idea was to put in windows that have healthy overhang so that you get some, solar heat in the winter if you want it, and shade in the summer. Our feeling was that these were not visible from the street, and so we took some leeway in terms of inserting somewhat different types. For instance, the backyard, you won't be able to see it all from the street.
We just have to review every elevation.
We review all elevations.
No, of course. Yeah.
Primarily in the front, those four little square windows in the front, I think.
Well, the three.
Three. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't see any of that in El Hoyo or in the Barrio in general at that type of elevation. I think that's one of my concerns. And then also on the floor plan, Hogue, you have that 45-degree back at the back porch.
Yeah.
Like is it that to get a better access to the door there? I don't see that type of layout either.
It opens up that room.
Yeah, it was really Pat's feeling to just create as much, to squeeze out as much room inside as possible.
And it orients the dining, the view to the yard. I mean, instead of having a corner there that you would rub into, you have that angled glass.
Yeah. Again, our feeling was we could take some liberties on the back of the house since it was not visible from the street. And it was really inside a private courtyard. But I totally get what you mean. It is not, the same as the public at all.
Yeah, that's not typical. And then my last, I've got a couple more questions, but the neighborhood is primarily a masonry neighborhood.
Right.
So everybody that's gone through the review process that has had frame construction has been denied. And they've revised their plans to go to masonry.
Yeah.
In the original guidelines, it says to build exterior walls with like material as to what was used in the past. And besides some lean-to sheds, I don't think there were any houses over here that were built out of frame.
Okay. I expressly asked Historic with the city, Michael Tacker, about this issue, and was told that it was not necessarily a deal killer.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed to hear that. Would you have other people who've been approved? Have they used CMU or ATF systems or?
Yeah, I think we're amenable to any of those solid wall constructions like CMU or some ICFs. Adobe, probably not appropriate in this case, but we'd love to see it, but in terms of economy.
Yeah. That was the choice in this case was obviously costs, costs are
right.
really high right now. and also footprint. If to, a 10 or 12-inch wall, on this kind of tight lot, this kind of tight space, yeah. If I had
Yeah.
known that, if we had known that no one had been approved, we might have taken a second, a closer look at that.
Right. I mean, not that I can think of. I mean, since the board has been functioning again in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
One of the issues too with the frame wall construction, I mean, that looks like a 6-inch wall.
it's 2x6 construction, yeah.
Yeah, you just don't get that same reveal. Not necessarily that we want to completely mimic the historic, but it's nice to
Right.
have these inset windows.
Right. I mean, the plan was to use either a 1 or 2-inch foam on the outside and give us a little bit more thickness. And set the windows in on a buck, 2x4
Right.
buck, so that we make sure we create a reveal.
Another thing too is like when we're doing these new additions onto historic structures, we want to be able to tell the two apart. So I don't know what your intention with that was when you explained about matching stucco and paint. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously I wouldn't want to see a different color paint on there, but we really want to be able to differentiate what the historic structure is and what the new structure is.
The Adobe caption
Right.
would
I mean,
be
that's-
indicated.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Are you-
times mentioning the adobe cap on the parapet, we wouldn't reproduce that.
Right.
I know it's a line to walk because I know that the focus is on proportion, materials, rhythm, those kinds of issues, not trying to fake a kind of, old Tucson. So there are certain moves that we've made, for instance, like the small punch out windows on the west face. To me, that helps differentiate this as contemporary building.
It does.
We're not trying to fake that we're, creating the exact same thing. If you walk into the building, you should know, no, this was an addition. This was done later. It's done with conventional techniques of this period, right? As the 28 house was done. But scale wise and, color wise and some of the materials wise, it ties in.
One other question is, what are your thoughts on air conditioning condenser location, or what was the plan with that?
The plan is to use mini splits and to put the condensers on the roof.
For Tony, for
Pedro, yeah.
It's on the
So
roof
can,
now.
can you
Yeah,
hide those condensers behind that parapet? That parapet does not look very deep.
Well, there's 2 levels. So on the upper
Oh yeah,
level,
that's right.
yeah, not much, but on the lower level, yeah, I feel like
Right.
we have enough height to hide it. Yeah,
So you can put them on the lower level and.
correct. Yeah. I guess, I mean, if we had to, we could probably put them,
On the old roof.
well, even or on the ground here on the east side, between the back of the house and the alley.
Right.
But I do think on that lower roof, it'd be pretty well hidden away.
Yeah.
Certainly from the street, maybe not from the alley, but from the street.
And your plan is for the new roof, is it draining onto the historic structure? Is that?
Well, the plan is that it would be guttered to keep the water from
Okay.
draining off of that and down into this courtyard.
Okay.
Yeah. And the same for this roof.
Probably do water collection.
Right.
So looking at that roof, we'll see the gutter sort of, it looks like 2 or 3 feet out in front above the existing roof. I'm looking at, that elevation.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Would you be open to wrapping the parapet around the corner so that we don't see the drainage?
So then we would wrap it. How far do you think? So do you
About
mean
25'7", I guess.
So you mean to do canales perhaps instead, and with a gutter? Is that what you're talking about doing instead of an overhang?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a little nervous about shedding all that water onto the existing historic structure in general, but
Yeah.
you know, in an overflow situation, if we could cricket it or something so it drains off the back.
My only problem with that would be then we would remove our overhang from these high windows.
Right.
But I think that's something we'd be wanting to consider, yeah. I'm not sure we have the rise to get away with cricketing against a parapet wall here
Mhm.
on the south. I think if it was really a deal breaker or a real problem, it might, well, I'm not sure I'll even suggest that. I mean, we could do canales or an overhang on this side. They'd have to be canales because of fire code. But I think it would be really helpful to harvest this water for this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, if you were going in the opposite direction, you would be probably dumping on the neighbors.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was.
Lot.
Yeah, unless you guttered it well and around the
Right.
center, you know, it'd be kind of elaborate. Yeah, yeah. So is the concern, and I'm sorry, was it Grace speaking? Or who was?
Yes. Yeah.
So the concern is you feel like there could be an overflow situation where you're dumping too much water on the existing.
Yeah. One of the things we're looking at is how we're touching the existing building. And that would be my concern. Yeah. That we're then putting strain on that roof that it wasn't designed for.
Can you gutter the high room over, not gutter, but send the water down over the, send the water from here to here instead of here?
Well, that's what she's talking about doing, is doing a parapet here
Mhm.
and then cricketing this.
Mhm.
But I'm just not sure we have the rise unless we make the parapet even higher, which I think is not
Right.
anybody wants.
But then you're also going to eliminate your overhang for those windows, right?
Right, and that's,
We're going to have to do a little bit of give and take.
yeah. Just thinking.
Because the issue is this sticking out here.
Well, what she's concerned about is too much water coming down on this,
Oh,
on the
okay.
old roof.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think.
And it will be, it can be guttered, right?
It can be guttered, yeah, but you know, they do back up sometimes and overflow.
This is a little unrelated, but is the finished floor elevation in the addition higher?
It is, yeah.
Because I noticed we're calling this out as 6-9, and then the window schedule or the door window schedule says 7 for that number 7 door.
There is a step up, yeah, and I'll show you here at the kitchen. And that's because the lot actually rises.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and we had to get grade separation. Okay. I wish.
What
I
about
had-
the tile roof, Mary Lou and Grace? What is your feeling with that?
So what about?
The tile roof?
Yeah, what about?
The tile
So-
overhang?
Yeah. Oh, you said there's some in the neighborhood in the development zone?
Yeah. There's one down the street, and I'll show you that photo here.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's-
445.
Mary Lou, did you have a thought on that?
And I would just add that he is planning on using real clay tile, not cement tile or something like that.
Right. Would it be like cement set or not?
Well, probably.
I don't know. Yeah.
Probably cement set. We've
Yeah.
actually laid cement set before. We did that when we were teenagers.
Mhm.
Um,
I already got 'em.
But if it seems, more in keeping, he wouldn't have to use cement set. It's just what we're used to.
It's very, I mean, it's a 6-foot porch. It's not a big.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with the clay tile. I almost think maybe not doing cement set. I don't know of any examples in the neighborhood that got that clinking of cement in it.
Okay.
Mary Lou, did you have a comment on the tile roof?
No, I just, I see where he's getting where the roof is coming from.
Right.
It's just, I don't know, it feels somehow out of place. I'm not sure why. It's just, could you bring the picture back up to the proposed?
Sure. Sorry about that blurriness.
Okay, I guess maybe for me, it's like proportion or a heaviness that. For that small house. The other one is a larger, it's different time period.
Mhm.
On
Would you
that same-
feel- Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say to Mary Lou's point, I think these, the like wood posts, when you see them in the development zone, are usually holding up a much lighter profile
Yeah.
roof.
Mhm.
With like a standing seam. I think they were corrugated more often. So that may be something that she's picking up on too.
Would you all feel more comfortable with corrugated or raised skin? We talked about that as an option, but
Yeah, I think I would be more comfortable with corrugated.
Yeah,
I think Mary Lou's point of making it, the tile makes it look heavy in comparison to the addition.
Mhm.
What is on the existing one right now on that little?
It is
Is that-
a funny little metal frame. Hang on. It's a little metal frame with reed fencing. And it was
Oh, with
just,
reed fencing on it.
yeah, and it's been there,
I've patched it up 100 times.
but it was there when he bought it, and it basically just hangs over the
It's
parapet.
an engineering marvel that it's still there.
Is it being held up on the parapet? That's
Yeah,
Well,
interesting.
it hangs on it.
Right.
It floats. It's not attached.
yeah, it just hooks over it.
Does the wind ever pick that up?
Nope. It's amazing.
No.
Like I said,
Wow.
marvel of engineering. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lighting, there's this old lighting hardware, and it's pretty heavy. So I think it's what keeps it from floating away.
Right.
Conduit, like
Yeah.
ties it down. Yeah.
So now that we're on that elevation photo right there, that electrical is going to be moved onto the addition, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm trying to remember, because we did. At one point, we were going to move the panel to this north edge, but I think the latest actually keeps it there.
I just replaced it all. So
Yeah.
it's-
The panel.
Where
was
is that in relation to the house? Is it by the, like, just south of the
It's-
porch?
It's basically, let's see, south of the porch.
Do you mind pointing it out on the floor plan?
On the floor plan, sure. It sits here, right in front of,
Okay.
in front of the porch. The mast
So
head
you-
comes down right in front of the porch edge.
Right.
And we would have moved it here, but like I said, he had trouble with it about a year ago, and they went ahead and upgraded it
Right.
to 200 amps, so it was done,
I don't think it's 20. It's just a-
I think they upgraded it.
Really?
Yeah.
No, those porch posts, what are those? They look like kind of an odd size. Are they?
Well,
like
they
4 by
are,
6?
they're 4x6s, and that was to fatten them up from the street to give them a wider profile. I think he'd be fine going with a 6x6 if you all wanted something heavier.
No, I think it's probably better to go with that 4 by 6.
Yeah, it doesn't need a 6x6, and but it just, the 4x4s just look a little too puny,
Right.
and so we upped them.
And you're planning all wood windows and doors, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we were gonna, subject to review, we we're gonna ask you if you were okay with cladding, but as I understand it, you're not, and he's fine doing,
Yeah.
he's fine doing wood, so it's
Yeah.
all be wood.
The window that's in the existing Adobe is, what is that? Is that?
I know it looks like I mentioned, these look like Muntins, but they're not. It's like a security screen.
It's the same vintage as the shade.
Yeah.
It's just somebody tacked it together. It's just a little
The screen, but
security
the
screen.
actual window is a wood double hung.
Double hung.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we stuck with double hungs on the back. I know there's no transom, there's no precedent for transoms in this kind of house, but Pat was really, his house is brick. And, has the high windows with double hung large windows. And he really likes living with those, these larger windows. So that's what we went with on the back.
The watershed onto the roof.
I mean, it seems that, well, you'd have to gutter it, you have to do it downspout.
I mean, it's great. Could you slope the high part instead of having it all slope south?
Slope it to the east.
And that would take it all to
It's
the.
a big
It's a big change.
change. And the problem is then you'd run out of room here for these clear stories. Because you need all this,
Mhm.
So if we pitched it this, it's really caused a lot of problems. Sorry, we're just,
Yeah, no, you're fine.
yeah.
We're coping.
Okay, I just have a question about procedure. I've only done this once before, about 7 years ago. And if, in the case of revisions, do I go back, do the revisions, and then we do another meeting, or?
That's what usually happens.
Okay,
I would say it actually depends on your revisions.
okay. So,
Right, if they're minor.
yeah, right,
Right.
okay. And then, and if they're major, then I assume they have to go back through building as well as you guys, right?
When you
Correct.
mean, yeah,
They have to go back through the city, the building review in the city, and also through you guys.
Correct.
right.
Yeah.
But they haven't let you submit without a historic review stamp yet or approval, correct?
No, they've changed their process. It used to have to go through historic first. Now they seem to be
No.
doing it concurrently.
It never had to go through historic first. Historic is a review discipline, just like mechanical, structural, electrical. You submit for the permit first. You do an initial zoning review and they provide comments and they basically reject you and say that you have to go through the historic review. They let you know if there's any setback issues or any of that. And then you're working your way through the historic review approval process through Barrio Historico or whatever advisory board associated the historic preservation zones. And then you go to the plans review subcommittee. Then if approved, then it gets a decision letter from Nectar, and then you're still going through. So a lot of times they still kind of do initial reviews. Some of the other people will look at the reviews, but if there's substantial changes to the plans through the decision letter, the historic review process, then you have to go back and fix those, and you would have to go back through like structural, mechanical, electrical, or had made the other comments.
Okay. I just did notice that on the dashboard, it shows that it's gone through building review. It's gone through engineering and building review. And it shows that it's passed, which I was surprised.
Yeah, and then if there's substantial change, you would go back through those
So go back.
reviews.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
Grace, Mary Lou, do you want to make a motion?
Were you thinking to conditionally approve it with those changes? What was? your
Well,
thought?
I mean, I think I'd like to make a motion to see a resubmittal with some more work done to it.
I'll second
Maybe,
that.
yeah, maybe I can make the motion. So I want to make a motion to continue this review and look at having solid construction exterior walls. Maybe trying to solve the clear story windows through some skylights, especially on the west elevation. And I'd like to see how the south elevation is affected from the street. What you can see and what you can't see. I know we review all 4 elevations of the plan. And then maybe reconsider the transom windows above the double hungs in the back. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously going to give you extra light. I don't know if it's worth the cost and architectural expense for that added light. I don't know if the benefit is big enough. And change the roofing material on the porches to corrugated in lieu of the red tile roof. And I think that's it for my motion now. Oh, also that 45-degree corner, can you study that a little bit more?
We can, you know, it's easy enough to make it a 90.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want
This is
to.
what he prefers, but you
Right,
know,
no, I understand why he prefers that
Before
too.
you have discussion, can we get a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So maybe if study that a little bit more and if no good solution, we'll reconsider that. And I think we'll be fine with the 3-foot setback, correct? Board?
Yeah.
okay. And on the height issue, it's setback and height. I mean,
Can we get a clarification? I mean, he does have parapets in the development zone that were up to 18 feet. Those are contributing structures, correct, Hoag, on 408 LES and 412?
The one next door.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
scroll down, you can see.
And what is it, 408 kind of has that roof shed structure off the back, which you're proposing? Is that, am I seeing that photo correctly? Right where your cursor's at?
Yeah, it looks like there, let me zoom in a little. I haven't looked at it closely myself. Yeah, and there's a down.
And that's a leader head and downspout for,
Yeah. That's the one.
Can I get clarification on the motion?
Mhm.
Okay, so you wanted solid, you wanted to continue it to show solid
Construction, not stuck on frame.
Correct.
wanted to solve the clear story with skylights, particularly on the west elevation. And then
Well,
I
on the west,
missed, was it the west elevation?
the south elevation.
Well, primarily the west is the front of the street, correct?
He don't
Right.
like those little windows.
No, hang on. You referring to the clear stories on the south elevation?
I mean, my biggest concern are the ones on the front elevation.
Okay,
You know, I mean, I hate to be hypocritical here and say you can't have them here and you can't have them there, but I mean, especially on the front, Mary Lou Grace, go ahead and override me if, I mean, it's pretty hypocritical. on my
Okay. And then I missed what was after that. I didn't catch it.
It was the metal corrugated roof on the porches.
No. So there was, okay, so I'll go over what I got. I got the masonry, the clear story with the skylights. I got consider transom above the double hung windows in the rear, change roofing to corrugated in lieu of red tile, study the 45-degree angle corner, and okay on the setback waiver. There was something in between the skylights and the transoms that I didn't catch.
The water coming on.
Yeah, I made the motion and I can't remember it.
I did ask about height, if that was what.
That was towards the end.
Yeah.
And the 45-degree corner is where? Which corner?
That's the
It's the
Inside.
inside corner.
so
Yeah.
Plan.
Sorry,
Southeast corner?
correct. Inside corner here on the southeast.
Southeast corner. Ah, okay. All right. Does anybody remember what it was between skylights and Reconsidering the
that
trend.
we were concerned about the drainage onto the historic structure or near the historic structure.
Right,
Ah,
okay. If I can just clarify, the south clear stories, we haven't the reason for the height and the overhang is because of those south clear stories.
Right. I think when I was talking about that, it's like maybe if we could see what we would see from the street, from Elias,
Okay,
with reference to those clear story windows.
okay. I think that would require a 3D. I could do a SketchUp model, I think.
Yeah, that's,
Help with
yeah, I
that.
don't want to give you more work than you need to, but if it would be very helpful for us.
Yeah, I don't know how else you'd know,
Right, we wouldn't.
I don't know if it helped, but I planted trees. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of, there's some Palo Verdes that are volunteering in the front yard. I got big mesquites in the back and I want to keep that kind of stuff going. So as far as the street presence, I'm hoping
Yeah.
it's.
Can you show us a photo of the front elevation again to reference that
Yeah,
landscaping?
sorry, I'm gonna go down. Here's the front elevation.
Right.
This vine looks, well, it looks like this in the spring.
That's that, it's Queen's Wreath and but there's some volunteer Palo Verdes I'm trying to keep going and I'm hoping that,
That's not.
that whole yard will be.
My suspicion really just, Paulo is looking at it, you're gonna see
You're gonna see some.
that first clear story, no doubt, right? But it is set back, the front of the house is about 9 feet back.
From the existing,
Yeah. So here's the existing, right? You can see that the addition is set back, that creates the void for that porch.
Yeah, what is that, 9 foot 9 inches?
I believe that's right. 64.
I've got it. I
9.
think on
9
your,
foot
on your
9.
site plan.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
9'9", yeah. So in terms of your concerns, Paul, would it, if we got rid of, say, one of these clear stories, these shine into the bathroom, which to me is less essential.
Maybe you could put a skylight there.
It's nice. The
Yeah,
skylights
a
are-
small skylight, or we could eliminate maybe these. I'd love to keep these because they shine into that dining area.
The
Right.
skylights are very hard. I mean, it's sort of a constant, winter, summer, it's the same
Right, you can't
amount of
control
heat
the
and
light.
light. And
Yeah,
when they're southern like that, they're picking up, the evening light and it's a softer,
Yeah.
it's more better.
but at any rate, if one or both of those was gone, would that feel better, do you think?
It would, it goes again into my hypocrisy of those are not good and those are good, but
Yeah.
I think it would be better.
Yeah, okay. So that's something that's easy to
Or
consider.
maybe one for
Okay.
the back instead of.
Okay.
So Jody, are we clear on the motion now?
Sure. I'm pretty sure I got it, kind of mostly.
You want to
Let's
go
go back
repeat
and
it
listen
again
to
and
him.
then we'll vote on it?
Do you want me to, so you continued it, you want, and I'll finesse this when I this up, but basically you want solid CMU masonry construction. You want to solve the clear stories with skylights on the elevation. You want to address, somehow address drainage on the historic structure or near the structure. Reconsider transoms above the double hung in the rear. Change roofing to corrugated metal in lieu of red tile. Study the 45-degree corner at the southeast corner. Okay on the setback waiver, and Hope is asking about the height. I did put what the TSM, the technical standards manual, says about heights in the chat earlier, if anybody saw that,
I
but
didn't see it. What
Yes,
is
I
it?
did see that. And I think that their reading of it, measuring to the top, it sounds consistent with what the code says. So I think height wise, the precedents are working just fine.
Okay.
So they're measuring to the top of the gable
Mhm.
for parapet roofs too. Is that what? I didn't
Yes.
see that. Okay. Okay, so that's our motion. Mary Lou has seconded it. Let's take a vote. Grace,
Aye.
Mary Lou,
I,
and Paolo, aye. So Patrick and Hope, thank you for your time, and we'll see you hopefully sooner
Okay,
rather
Thanks.
than later.
okay,
Thank you.
take care.
So I included the guidelines on the agenda, should you want to continue the discussion. But it's your prerogative.
I would rather postpone if possible.
yeah, could we postpone and do nothing but guidelines?
Yeah,
I'm giving options. I'm happy to put it.
no, we appreciate that, Jody.
Yes, we do.
Did you want to set up a special meeting?
Yes.
To just okay.
Yeah, I mean, we probably only have one more to go, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Just one more.
Pretty far through, and I mean, I'm available any Monday the rest of the month, and the first one in June, and then I'll be back. I'll be out of town for 2 weeks in June. So you guys take your pick.
So just so you guys know, I'm already booked the 22nd and the 29th is a holiday.
Oh, Labor Day?
Yeah.
Or is that Memorial Day?
One of those. I don't know why I
Right.
can't ever get those right. I
Yeah.
mix those up.
You guys
So
want to
it's
try?
next
Well,
next week or June?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Or the 5th. When were you going to be out? I'm also available the 5th of June.
I mean, we can, but wouldn't we have a regularly scheduled board meeting that day.
Your board meeting would be the 12th.
the 12th? Okay, so we could do the 5th. I'll have a hard time making the 12th, I think.
Okay, so why don't we do the 5th?
Yep.
Grace, does the 5th work for you?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, that's good.
Okay, I will send out calendar appointments.
4 p.m.
Buddy.
And then Jody, so after, say, assuming we do finish our guidelines on the 5th, I'm assuming that we probably want to have 2 people proofread, correct grammar and spelling. Mary Lou, Grace, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea.
So maybe edit it. I can be one of the editors, and then somebody can edit me. And then after that, Jody, what's the process? Does it go to mayor and council?
Oh, it goes to PRS because that went to last time. When we did Armory Park and it got bumped back. And then Armory Park is kind of
All right, can you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. Last time it went to PRS, and then it got bumped back to PRS, and now that's why Armory Park has kind of stalled.
Okay.
Because they have some corrections.
I mean,
but
did they
it's-
have a lot of corrections? Like, is that why it stalled?
They had a lot of corrections. They had issues because it was a rough read. They had broken it up, and mind you, this was a couple of years ago, so I'm kind of from memory, but they had broken it up into different sections that different people did, so it didn't read as one voice. They had a lot of repetitive information in there, like stuff that made it really long and didn't need to be in there. They had a lot of spelling errors, grammatical errors, and stuff like that. So it made it a little bit problematic. So those would be the things that I would, if you guys are gonna read it and edit it, I would be sure to like make sure that you're addressing those things. And they also had bear in mind too, also had early on, they had pictures. They had pictures that they had used from West University. It showed like different styles of houses and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have that.
We
But
do.
We
they,
have, we have pictures, but they're from a publication that was done quite a while back.
They're yeah, sketches, not photographs,
They're
right, Jenny?
sketches.
I don't think did I say anyways, but yeah, so I mean, those are kind of things to consider just as you go through, like cleaning it up, making sure it's cognizant and one voice and not jumping all over the place and not repeating a lot. I think that's why Armory was so long. So maybe what I would suggest is do a refresher with West University first and then do your edit. So because West University successfully got through the process, and then go to edit yours instead of referencing Armory Parks. Because I think your cues initially from Armory Park.
Okay, good to know. For that meeting, Jody, can you make a note so that we remember? I saw the email that you sent out regarding the interpretation that you got for us. If we can just talk about that next time.
Oh yeah. Talk about development zone.
Yeah, was it public and institutional structures?
Yes. Because sorry, I was making a note as I send this out to you. Yeah, I had gotten, I asked the zoning administrator about it. That is the direction that she gave to me.
Yeah, it's awesome. We love to know for sure.
So I just sent the invite to you for the 5th. Okay.
And Jody, do we have any news on the new board member?
No, I had asked city clerk about it because they kind of were not putting people forward, and it seemed like they pushed and they were putting people forward. But I haven't heard anything from Barrio, from what's his name, Mitch something. And I hadn't heard anything, but I'll query them again this week.
Okay. That'll bring us up to 5, I guess.
Is this somebody who agreed to be on the board? They just haven't been appointed yet, or we're still trying to convince them?
No, they've agreed to be on the board.
Oh, great.
And he filled
No,
out.
he put stuff in.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he's just waiting to be approved.
Okay.
All right, Jody, you have any other staff updates?
I can't think of any other staff updates. I meet with you guys so frequently. I wrote out staff updates for you.
Okay, so we can make a motion to adjourn the meeting for Monday.
Okay, I'll
May.
make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Everybody, thank you very much.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Jody, thanks.
Have a good one.
You too.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.